Razor, and welcome back to the studio. And we're joined in the studio today none other than the man himself, another Hill Street legend, Hill Street Newry legend, Declan McChesney. Declan, thanks for coming into the studio.
You're very welcome, Tony. Sure, it was great of you to ask me.
Sure, thanks very much.
That wee envelope of cash was great.
Yeah. Hope
It'll do well.
I hope you think it's right.
But, well, you know, it's better than my own.
Well, I tell you what, it's got warm in here today, Declan. There it goes, look at that there. I'm lethal with that, you know.
You're perfect shot, but you think he'll... Okay, I'll phone for the ambulance later.
Ambulance is called, don't worry. We'll get it all here. There's been disastrous parking episodes, everything out there, Andrew, isn't that right? And the crack's always good in the Banter show.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Well, if you're running the show, it's got to be good.
Oh, he knows how to talk. There's no bluffing this man.
Well, sure, I do it for the love of the people like yourself, Tony.
So, Declan, how long have you been trading in Hill Street?
Well, I suppose Cahill Brothers has been there since 1894, 130 years.
My God.
It is the oldest privately owned business in Newry. It's one of the oldest shoe shops in Ireland. There's two others about the same age as us, and that's all. Nobody else.
In the whole country?
In the whole country.
Wow.
One in Coleraine and one down in, I think it's Templemore. So they're the only ones who've lasted the distance.
My God.
You know, I mean, it's very funny because I suppose if you ask how long does a business last, and every so often I'm standing outside, or standing in the shop looking out, and there's a couple walks by, a guy called Kevin Murphy and his wife Rosaline, and they worked for us, and they're married now, and their kids are up and away and living in Australia. You know, and to me, that's the Cahill Brothers couple, and that's only in my lifetime. And remember, this was going on long before me.
Wow.
You know.
And how did you come to get Cahill Brothers then?
Well, you see, it's a typical Irish thing. The Cahill Brothers were from Cavan, or Cavan.
County Cavan.
Where you can eat your dinner out of a drawer, where you can peel an orange with boxing gloves on.
In your pocket.
And you can, the other one is you always keep broken glass in your pocket in case it's year round. Sorry, anybody from Cavan. But anyway, these two men, they had a shop in Blaney, and they decided to come to Newry, and they opened on 64 Hill Street. And two funny stories. One is quite recently somebody came in to see me with, you know, the old Hibernian sashes, AOH sashes. And it was embroidery, Cahill Brothers, Castle Blaney, 1897.
They
brought it into show. Yeah, brought it into show.
Wow.
Right. But then one of the brothers, Owen, came up to Newry, and they opened on Hill Street, and the shop that was there was McDonald's butcher shop. And I don't know how many haven't ever been to Fitzpatrick's down at Rockmarshall, the restaurant.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be known as Angela's, because when you went in the door, behind the bar, there was a picture of a young girl standing in the doorway of her daddy's shop. She was Angela MacDonald, and her dad was McDonald's butcher shop, and so it was the first picture of our shop.
That's incredible.
So anyway, in 1894, Owen Cahill came down and he opened the shop. And business took off, and he contacted his sister, who was my father's mother, my granny, and he said, I need help up here, send up one of the boys. And my father was the third son, and I don't know if you know the tradition. The first son got an education, the second son got the farm, and the third son got the priesthood. And my father went, that's not for me. So he came up to Newry and in 1908 and went into the business and took it over in 45. And that's...
Just after World War II.
Just after World War II. And it was so funny. You know, when you've got a family business, anybody will tell you who's grown up in a family business, it's like the family farm. You're in there, winter, summer, school holidays, we were in there, and down the back of the shop there used to be a thing, you know, you weren't able to ever buy anything in the post-war years. You had to use coupons, And there was, unfortunately, I can't think of the name of the type of clothing, but it was all this wartime manufacturer stuff. And you got a license to buy it and you got a license to sell it. And there used to be boxes of it here and there down the back of the shop, you know. And I remember one time finding a big, great old overcoat. It was like a Harris tweed overcoat. And I loved it. Of course, my folks hated it. And, you know, the usual story, you know, when you were going out, you'd throw it out the window in a bag. And then you go, right, I'm away now. And then put the coat on. And then one day I came home and there was a fire out in the garden and there was my coat.
No way, in the fire?
On the fire.
Whoa, that was a bit heavy.
Oh, that was war. That was war.
That was a bit heavy there, Declan. What age were you?
I suppose I was about 17, 18 at the time.
Well, you're thinking differently. You're a complete rebel at that age, aren't you?
Oh.
So
I remember my social life moved to Warrenpoint during the summer because I love the sea and love the water and love everything. And I mean, in 1917, or not 1917, when I was 17, 18, that was when San Francisco took off. And I remember walking down Hill Street in my bare feet.
No way.
To Warrenpoint. And of course...
and him working the cow shoes.
But the funniest part of all that was that people loved to go into the shop carrying tales, telling stories. Oh, I saw him the other day, I saw him the other day. And I hated it, but everything I did came back to the shop. And quite recently, there was a guy, and you know who you are, came into my shop to complain about something my son had done.
Oh,
About
dear,
Greg.
dear. About Greg. Greg's a great guy. Leave Greg alone.
And he came in with a complaint, thinking he was being really, really cool. And I burnt his ears for him and sent him out of the shop. The guy, he can't even look at me in the street now, and his wife doesn't come back in anymore.
Oh, just lost a bit of...
I don't miss you.
Just lost a bit of business there, dude.
Oh no, I'd rather lose the business than have people snivelling in the door.
And giving you bad manners. You don't need it.
I don't want anybody coming in because it was done to me. Everything I did went straight back to the shop. Because people thought they were making it for themselves. They weren't doing it.
It sounds like a bit of jealousy going on down there, like Declan.
Whatever it was, you know.
That's unbelievable, but that's petty, isn't it?
Oh.
But sometimes you love sometimes you like a wee bit of pettiness like this just to keep you going, you know what I mean? And
look,
just to see
if you're in retail, you get to meet everybody. And I'm very lucky because I had the emotion of disappointment surgically removed very early in the game. And now you just can't believe some of the things that people do. But it never disappoints me. I see it. Actually, I know when someone does something really rotten for me, I'll turn it over in my head, and about a month later, in a pub with a few jars, it'll come out as a funny story.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And that's the way I do it.
Do you ever commend somebody on something? Well, I've never heard of that one. Fair play.
Oh,
Did you ever?
absolutely. I mean, I go through the complete. Absolutely, you got me there. That's the best one. There has been a couple.
What about the big changes in Hill Street, Declan? There's the likes of our old friend Lofty, for instance. Lofty's not on the street.
No, hold on a minute.
You know.
You mean Jared?
Oh yes, big Jared.
Well, Jared is on Hill Street every morning.
Early, he's in there, yeah.
He's early, and he is in Super Value, having his coffee, and he is a gentleman. And he was a gentleman from day one I ever met him.
I know him very well.
I never, ever gave Jared a drink. But I went up to him every morning, and I sat down and I talked to him, and I bought him food, because I thought the world of him. And he particularly singled me out for abuse when he may have been married.
When he was in full flight.
Well, can I just tell you, when you're in business, there are some incredible lows in business as well as the highs. And I mean really low. There are times that the tide is so far out, you think you're going to lose your home, you're going to lose your family, you're going to lose everything. And I remember one time, and I looked at Jared, and I seriously questioned myself, because I had been feeling on the floor for a matter of weeks. Just worried about the way business was going. You know, Hill Street was suffering, we were suffering, and I looked at him and I thought, you're only going to feel this bad for part of the day, and then you're going to feel pretty good. Who's right and who's wrong? Now, in fairness, he then took himself off down to Carlo and I went to visit him down in Carlow.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, there
He
you
was
go.
working in the greenhouse in Concilio's, just outside Carlow. When he came back up to Newry, I was one of the first people he came to, and he came into the shop, and he goes, "Well, Mr. McChesney," I said, "No, it's Declan, and you're Jared." And he said, "Yep, okay." And then he says, "How's business? How's things?" And he was asking me as an equal, because he had cast off that terrible hard time he went through, and we were equal from that day. And I can tell you, I think the world of him.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go and I talk to him every day, and he is a shining example of someone who took himself and pulled himself out. And Newry's a better place for him. He is someone who someone should sit down and quietly tease out the story. You know, he's a super guy.
I know him very well, and it's great to see you that getting on well, Lofty, you know. And it's great
Jared.
to meet you. Well, Jared, you know, sometimes I call him Jared, and I call him a Lofty, you know. He still likes that wee bit of teasiness about him, you know.
Yeah.
But he's a good guy. Must get you in for the Banter some of these days now. That'd be a good one, you know. But and a very learned guy.
Oh yeah.
You know, loves reading and.
You know, you look at the guys that went through him. Miller, sadly gone. Miller's girlfriend, sadly gone. And a lot of the guys that went through it with him, all gone. And there was another guy, he was from Belfast. And he used to come into the shop to us in the evening. You know, like when you have a long-term shop, it's not a shop. It's
Drop-in centre.
It's a drop-in centre. And this guy used to come in, and he was a lovely man. And he, too, was a really educated guy. And I'll never forget, but he would say to me, "Look, you know, I slept out last night, or I fell asleep on a bench, or I slept in Heather Park." He used to sleep under the bushes in Heather Park quite often. And, you know, we'd chat away, and he says, you know, it gets very cold. And I remember it was around Christmas, and my good lady wife, Miriam, went out and bought me a lovely cashmere scarf. And I thought I was Jack the Hat. And I headed off out of work one day to pick up the car. And when I got into the car, the scarf was gone. 3 days later, I dropped it. I saw him wearing it, and I thought, it's gone to a good place.
Went to a better home.
And he subsequently lost his leg through the drink, and he arrived in the shop one day in the wheelchair, told me that he'd got his life together, and off he went. But I'll tell you, I'll give you a laugh. To give you an idea how long I'm on Hill Street, when I came home, I worked in Dublin for a couple of years, and oh boy, it was just like someone took the rope off. And when I came back up to Newry to work, I had to make a very conscious decision, because I was offered a very good job in Dublin. In those days, Levi's were the jeans.
Yeah.
And Levi's had asked me to run Ireland for them. And my father asked me to come home.
Just at the same time.
Exactly. Literally a week. There was a week in it. And sure, family responsibility.
Your head must have been frayed then for that week, was it? Completely.
But the terrible thing about it all was, it was coming home to the middle of the Troubles. And Dublin was a young city full of young people.
Vibrant.
Oh, and
What age were you, Declan, this stage?
I was 21. No, I was 22.
My goodness.
And I came home, and we used to be closed on a Wednesday, and I went to Dublin every Tuesday night and came home every Thursday morning, went down every Saturday night and came up on a Monday morning. So I was 4 nights a week in Dublin on the Raz. And I remember arriving home, like it was pure rock and roll. From you hit Dublin on a Saturday night. The people who used to own the Florentine, Scabaticis, they lived in Dundalk at this stage, and they were pure Italian, and there was always a pot of spaghetti on the cooker. And I would always call in, and I'd get a big plate of spaghetti, lining,
Sorted.
off to Dublin. The pubs, then the nightclubs, then the jazz sessions on a Sunday morning, and then the rock sessions on a Sunday afternoon, then the jazz sessions on a Sunday evening, and the nightclubs on a Sunday night. And because it was a family business, there was no such thing as an excuse. I had to be in Newry for 9 o'clock on a Monday morning. No excuses at all, at all, at all. You get up in the morning and the snow is about a foot deep on the ground, all the roads are closed. Forget it. I've seen me coming home from Dublin in a car sliding sideways down the road, and I had to keep going. But I remember one morning parking at the back there at North Street, and I just parked and I looked at the flats and I thought, my God, is this my future? Parking here every morning and looking at those flats, looking at me. This is just gonna break my heart. I'm still here and the flats are gone.
I like that one, yeah.
I just thought, my God, it lasted longer than a building.
There you go. But you haven't changed it. You haven't changed a single bit.
That's a clean shirt.
Well, apart from the clean shirt, he hasn't changed a bit, you know. Look at the head of hair on him. Would you quit? Look at that there. But so you moved into the Hill Street then in the 70s, Declan. That was a dangerous time, wasn't it? And you think of there was concrete barriers both ends of Hill Street, even outside Woolworths, wasn't there?
You know, there's always been this. We've dealt with it. You saw the thing that came up on Facebook during the week there about the Marines trying to get the control of the light switches in Newry. That was an amazing thing. Yeah. But I mean, I remember all that. But I also remember the other side was, because we had the shop, I used to be able to get down onto Hill Street the odd time. And when I came home, I got a car. And it was a Mazda RX-3. Now, a Mazda RX-3 was a rotary engine car that it was just so fast. You could wheel spin in third gear, right?
Class.
But it ate fuel, like you just...
Rotary engine, that's right, a Wankel engine.
Yeah, that's exactly the one. Yeah. But the only problem was, because it had so much fuel, paraffin was dirt cheap. And it would run on a 50-50 petrol and paraffin.
Are you joking me?
No. So paraffin was dirt cheap.
Top gear.
You can't get me now, lads. You can't get me now. Statute of limitations.
Forget your red diesel and your green diesel.
But
Check this dude out.
The only problem was that it was like flying a Boeing 747 at 35,000 feet, because it left a beautiful white trail everywhere you went. So the only problem was that if you come up to the police barrier at where Jack Smith Sport is, you had to turn the engine off before you got there, and then be very light on the throttle pulling away, so as they wouldn't see the smoke, you know. But that was
I can't believe that. Yeah. There you go. So, but everybody around the border's been doing it wrong for years. It's petrol and paraffin. It's not diesel and paraffin. You go, oh, blah. That's a good one. I enjoyed that one.
Well, you know, you see, it was either put petrol into the tank or another bottle of wine in a nightclub in Dublin at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, I can see where you're going there.
Yeah. The only problem was when you woke up on a Sunday morning, you thought, we should have put petrol in the car.
Yeah, but stick to the Dublin end of things. That's right. At least you got that through, you know. But that's a good one. So then, and then days, Declan, there wasn't the same amount of pedestrian traffic you would see in Hill Street, obviously.
Oh, there was. There was great pedestrian traffic. Remember, Newry was the shopping centre. But
that Hill Street was the main shopping centre. Yeah. It was the main thoroughfare through Newry, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Like, let's go back. We had Foster's, and those of us will remember Foster's Coffee Lounge. After school, we all went there, and it was just brilliant. Then there was the Flow. And if you didn't go to the Flow, which was Scabatiches, you went to Dirty Dick's. Or you might have even ventured way on down as far as the Satellite. You know. But I mean, in the Flow, you would sit over a bottle of Coke for hours, you know, and the crack would be great. Now, then things moved on, and School Ceilidhs arrived. Wow. Oh my God. Such a cesspit and den of iniquity, you know. Like you got holding hands for the waves of Tory.
No.
Yeah. Would you like a mineral?
A mineral.
A mineral.
And that was real Coca-Cola back in the days.
And the other one was bottles. Kind of walk you to the bus.
You didn't? Were you at the bus walking?
I tell you one thing. See the bus to Clog?
No way.
I learned a lot on the bus to Clog when it wasn't moving.
It's when it moved, he learned even more. So check that one out,
No, I wasn't allowed. I had to get off. But the School Ceilidhs then came, and sometimes you needed a wee bit of fortification, and you might have gone to the bit and bridle, you know, and you had a few scoops in the bit. But you had a few. It was a merriment.
Well, it's hard to define the few, but Irish people, you know, we say a few. It's English people say a few. That's a few half glasses of beer.
Well,
Over here, it's a lot different, isn't it?
can I be prosecuted by the parents of my friends?
Absolutely not. You're on
That's
the Banter
brilliant.
show here. You can say whatever you want.
One of my buddies in those days was Davy Kavanagh from Kavanagh's Bar in Rostrevor. And there was myself and Davy Kavanagh, the poor late Paul McCoy from Ashgrove Park, and Brendan Conway, whose father owned Scott and Scott's on Hill Street. And we hung around together. We were an inseparable bunch of four. And if there was a school ceilidh going up, somehow or other, a bottle of vodka would come out of Kavanagh's Bar.
Oh dear.
And do you know where we used to go? To the baths in Warrenpoint. Now let me tell you, the school ceilidhs were November and December. And we would sit in the baths. And I always remember it was a paper cup, not unlike this, and you'd fill it to that level with vodka, because we could only afford a bottle of Coke between us.
A splash of Coke.
And you would do that. And if you managed to hold it down, and if you managed not to be abysmally ill, you were cock of the walk. You went to the...
You were the dude.
You were the dude, because you were in charge of the situation. And the chances were that not every girl would refuse to dance with you. There would be the odd one, you know, with maybe a bit of a vision issue. And you would get up, and the thing about it was, you had to know your Irish steps. No, you didn't know your, you know, at 15 and 16, you had hooves, you didn't have feet. But it just...
Hobnail boots in the day.
Yeah. And then the school dances came. Things got very modern. And I remember going to see a band called Atomic Rooster, I think they were called. And they were a heavy, heavy, heavy metal band down in the primary school hall in Kilkeel.
Wow.
Now, Kilkeel, I live right beside Kilkeel now. I ain't saying a thing wrong. But there may have been a slight amount of antipathy between the people of Kilkeel and the people of anywhere else, including even in the Mirror. But you know what I'm saying? And I remember being at one of those dances, and I can assure you, I'm a writer, not a fighter. So I would have been an observer. But this scrap broke out between a couple of young lads. And like Batman off a wall, in came the local parish priest.
Oh.
And he bit two shades of.
I bet he bothered them, did he?
Absolutely. It was far better than any dance ever was. That was the end of the rise.
Wow.
And then progress. Along came Ballyedmond.
Wow.
Now, I feel sorry for anybody who has never had the experience of Ballyedmond. When Ballyedmond was a hotel, and Ballyedmond had a disco, and the disco was called Caroline. And we owe all the music of today to Caroline, because Radio Caroline changed music and the music world for everybody, because it broadcast in pop music when no one was playing pop music. And then, as it turned out, very close friends of mine set up a franchise disco, and it was Ballyedmond every Friday night. And it was just brilliant.
Had you got a big radio system going through speakers?
Yeah, the
Radio Caroline.
Oh no! It was a pure disco mixing box and decks and the whole bit. But it was able to use the name Caroline and use the jingles.
I like that. Check that out, Enda Caldwell, former DJ on Radio Caroline. There you go.
And the DJs would come. I remember Tony Prince coming there, but that's where all the girls went. And the thing about it was, it was never over, insofar as after it was over, if you played your cards right, you stayed on. And you sat around in Ballyedmond. And I remembered so much coming out the main doors of that castle, two big doors. And the mountain was in front of you, and in the summer, the sun rose. And so you'd be coming out of there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can assure you in June, 4 o'clock in the morning, the sun's about to rise. And to tell you the honest truth, Tony, I now live down there. Not in Ballyedmond, but I live down there.
You're not too far away from it?
Not too far away from it, for that very reason.
Is that right?
I loved it.
That's
Loved
a
it with
great.
a passion.
I find that fantastic because I know exactly where you live, and I know your son Greg, and I've dropped them down, and your son and my son, and they were jamming and all. But that makes a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah.
So
That's why I'm done.
that would have been some sight to open the doors of that castle and look at the sun coming up. I mean,
But I'll
it's
tell
a
you,
mind blower.
it was for the age group that I was, and notwithstanding the poor late Lord Ballyemun being gone, the funniest thing that you can do is if you're ever down at Ballyhead, stop and look through the gates, and if you look at the trees down the laneway, there's lumps out of all of them, because young lads got the car for the first time, and down to Ballyhead, pull in the gate, and straight off one of the trees. There was more people battered and bashed cars off those trees, and there's lumps out of the
it's
trees.
like naughty ash, that tree, them trees. I know exactly where you're talking about.
must have
So
been-
now I know what happened to trees.
That's exactly it.
There
yeah.
you go. And that makes a lot of sense. And you're down, and it is beautiful down there. And my
God's
friend
own.
Dermot McQuaid doesn't live too far away from
That's
you
right.
either.
That's right.
Dermot lives just round the corner and up the mountain a bit.
Yeah.
And
Well, I get up in the mornings, not all the time, but I'm back doing it again. Get up at 7 o'clock and go straight up the mountain behind my house,
do you, Declan?
up to the top and back down again. Yeah.
That's a right trot, isn't it?
It's a killer.
It's a right trot.
But-
And it's coming up to your 40th birthday, and you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
suppose you
yeah,
have to look
yeah,
after yourself
yeah.
there, you know.
Well,
20
you know, you
quid
hear
for that,
these,
Declan, 20 quid.
you know these, you know these landmark birthdays.
Yeah.
And we had people in the shop there that says, God, you know, I'm going to a 50th. And I was thinking, I love getting asked to 50th. Gives me a chance to spend time with young people.
Hey, do you always got the big head of hair, Declan, the way you are?
Oh, no,
now?
I borrowed it for the show,
Did
Tony.
you? Well, could you borrow it? Can I borrow it to go home with? You know what I mean?
I'll give it to you after when I'm leaving.
It'll fit me lovely, you know.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
size fits all. But did you? We always had the big head of hair, yeah. There you go, and it's still there.
And I always remember the morning I come in with the ear pierced. Sacked.
What?
On the spot. Oh, I was sacked every week from the shop. My father was not a very tolerant man.
You're a right wee tearaway.
Well, I have the charge sheet to show it.
But that's amazing, Declan, because it shows you were jobbing away at the dad, like, weren't you?
I wasn't giving in.
You weren't giving in.
If I came back, I wasn't giving in.
But then you've got your own son and that there, and then
Well, it was different. I suppose it was different.
they were different days. I'm sure your father, I'm sure when he was growing up,
It
you
would
know
have
what I
been
mean, things
total
would have been
austerity. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
But he was a very austere man. Very, very, very austere, Dickensian in everything.
Oh.
So there was no liberality at all, at all, at all. And it was very, very difficult, you know, because people who know me know I had a kind of a charmed upbringing. We lived up in Ardmain, up on the Fullerton Road. It's now the nursing home. And it was a fabulous big house in its own grounds. And you know, you can't change your past. My past was that we lived in that big house and we had staff and we had everything in the house. But ask any of our neighbours, the door was open day and daily for anybody who wanted or needed anything. And in fact, I had lovely Mrs. Lyons in the shop today who lived round the corner from us on Pound Street, and I was talking to her as much today as I did when I was 4-year-old. You know.
What?
And
Gee whiz.
a lovely lady she is too, and we just crack a joke. And she still talks to me about standing her up. She says, he stood me up, you know. But it was a lovely place to live, but it was very austere. And it's the duty of a parent to correct the mistakes of their own parents. And well, you know my son, you know, that's an additive. I'm not talking about someone you don't know.
Yeah.
But we would have a great relationship in our house with all the kids. I have 2 now in South America and 1 living in Spain, which is quite sad.
Wow.
But the rebuke, the biggest rebuke I ever got from my son was he deleted me from his Facebook page. You know, and it took me 2.5 years to get back on again, and I know.
Well, at
Look at
least
it.
he accepted your friend request from the start.
Well,
I wouldn't even go there.
Oh well, yeah.
I was told don't even go there.
Well, no,
So
Mary
I
Ann,
don't.
my wife said, don't go on. And I went, no.
No.
And then,
You can't tell this Declan man what to do or what not to do.
Well, probably that's why I did go on. Yeah. but it ended up going against me.
That's unbelievable. It just shows you the whole system of life has changed recently, isn't it?
Yeah, but how you present the insult has changed dramatically, but the insult is still the same. Like if my father had deleted me from his Facebook page, he wouldn't have known what he had done, and I wouldn't have known what he had done. That wouldn't have meant anything. But now to be deleted by my son was tough.
Oh yeah. Well, as I say, the only thing I do now is send the odd photograph to my son Mark, WhatsApp. I give him that we're on the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And the odd phone call, but that's it. He will not go on social media to me at all. End of, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is it we're too cool for our sons, or what's going on, Declan? That's a good question. There's an answer in there, by the way.
Yeah. Too cool for our sons. I think, you see, there was an age gap. Like, I remember when I was a kid, my father would come in and turn off Top of the Pops and start this goddamn lecture about some awful music, And now my son is, like, just the other day I came upon an old album, It's a Beautiful Day, 1972. That's the name of the band and the name of the album. And I played it and I thought, God, I love that. And as I was talking to you earlier, Tony, up in the green room when they opened the wine, that beautiful bottle of wine before we
beautiful.
came on air. Oh,
beautiful, I have to say.
I tell you what, Rothschild at $5,000 was worth it.
Well, I tell you what, I can still taste there's a
But
nice
it's the cheese,
aftertaste
you
there.
see the cheese,
yeah,
you know.
velvety overtones,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A little bit of black
I think we'll have to go and crack that other one open now, Declan.
Well,
on the way
the
back.
other case?
Well, call me old-fashioned, but crack open the case. Hey, you heard it here in the Banter show.
But I've lost my train of thought.
There you go.
What are we talking about here?
Right, we're going to talk. Let's get back to Hill Street, Declan.
Oh yes. Sorry.
I don't want to bore you here, but I want to hear. You've been in the thick end of Hill Street.
Yeah.
You've been in you've seen that street changes so many times.
Yeah.
Flower beds, brick paving.
You see the first time when they pedestrianised it. Well, we started up this thing. There was the Chamber of Commerce in Newry, and they were interested in manufacturing, which was a fair amount in Newry. They weren't interested in trade. And then the first May bank holiday came around, and my social life was still in Dublin, and I wanted that day off. So I rang Louis Boyd, and I said, Louis, are you closing Monday? And of course, the immediate answer is, are you? I said, well, I want to close. He says, so do I. And I thought, right, as soon as I put the phone down, you ring J.V. Kelly's, and I'll ring McCartan Brothers. And I'll say that Louis Boyd and J.V. Kelly's is closing, and I'm closing, and they'll close. And you tell J.V. Kelly that McCartan Brothers and you and me are closing. And Louis and I did that. And we then got all of Newry closed for that bank holiday, and I got off down to that party in Dublin. So I thought this was a brilliant idea, that, it was easy to help people work things out. So my folks were away for the weekend, and I rang up the key players in retail in Newry, and I said, look, come up to my house and we'll just talk about getting ourselves a wee bit organised. And what I did was, I knew there was 12 people, 13 people including myself, 12 visitors and myself coming up. So I put out 12 chairs in the house and sat there. So everybody sat down. Oh, well, heavens above, there was nowhere for me to sit. So I sat on the arm of a chair. So immediately, I'm up higher than everybody else. So it's coming towards me. So we started the Chamber of Commerce and Trade, and believe it or not, I was the first president.
You worked that one out well, didn't you?
Absolutely.
That was a planned one.
Yeah,
That was a planned
absolutely.
one.
I thought, if I'm going to start this baby, I'm going to run this baby. And Newry Chamber of Trade was the first one in Northern Ireland. And we did many things for Newry and organised many things. For instance, one of the first big wars we had was that the butter crane was going out to where B&Q is. And if the butter crane had gone out there, that was the total end of retail in Newry. And the Chamber fought it, and they came in to what was the timber yard or whatever
Timber
it was,
yard,
used
yeah.
to be there.
Fishers, yeah.
And then next thing along came this scheme of pedestrianisations, which was being rolled out all around Northern Ireland because it had worked in Spain and it had worked in France and worked everywhere. And I thought, are you idiots? It rains in Ireland. It doesn't rain in those countries. But no, and people saw that this was going to be a great idea, and I hated the thought of it, and I was dead against it. But I was the president of the chamber, and the chamber wanted it. And I had to go, and I had to defend it here, there, and everywhere.
Even though you hated it?
Even though I hated it. It was democracy at work, Bob.
Oh my goodness gracious.
But so we got pedestrianisation on Hill Street, and I watched the rain blow in sheets up and down that empty street. And then, of course, with all the bombings and shootings and everything, and Foster's was burnt across the road from me, and shops were burnt left, right, and centre, and you were there trading, and there was tin rattling and banging. And then, on the 8th of February 1980, the Undertones came to the Imperial in Dundalk.
Dundalk, yeah, the Imperial.
And I decided that I wanted to go down and see Fergal Sharkey and the rest of the band. The only problem was that I'm an old pensioner with an old shop. You know, I'm a straight retailer. So I thought, well, the only thing I can do is I put on my formal dinner suit. Well, all the punks were there with the combs and all that. So I went in a formal dinner suit and went to it, and I had my lovely, that I'd managed to wheedle out of a warehouse, a lovely pigskin coat. So, Jack the Hat, you have no idea.
Class.
Jack the Hat. And of course, after the concert, piles was piled into the car, and back at that stage I was living in the house in Moorpoint. Piled back to the house, and walking in the door, the phone's ringing, and I answered the phone, and it's my mother crying on the phone that the shop was in flames.
Oh.
In flames. So I just had to throw the phone down, jump in the car, couldn't change, and straight up to Newry, and the flames were just coming out everywhere. And it was devastating because I had spent tens of thousands doing up the shoe department. We had spent thousands putting a new front on it and everything. And just to watch it all destroyed in front of us. My father had died by this stage, and it was my mother and myself were running it. And she was devastated in the car. And I sent her on home, and I stayed with the firemen. And I had to go in with them because, you know, you have to show them where everything is post the fire. And I came out, and there was an Irish news photographer there, and I'm seen coming out in this beautiful pigskin coat, dicky bow, the whole thing.
Oh, no.
With the fireman, smoke everywhere, right? And that was the end of that coat.
Wow.
But I had to sit, and I sat in my car outside that shop from midnight that night through till 8 o'clock. Over 48 and 54 hours later. Because at that stage, there were elements of society would have broken in and stolen everything that was there. So the only way I could do it was I had to sit there.
You just had to sit there?
Sit there, night and day.
Outside a fire damaged shop?
Yeah, out of my own fire damaged shop. My heart broken, everything. And everything that we had worked for was destroyed. And we just had to rebuild the whole thing and start again. And so difficult. And what had happened, and again, it's one of these really, really strange stories. What had happened was that this young guy, he was from a Roma background, and he had an issue with fire, and he burnt a huge amount of places around Newry. And it was known that he was doing it, but nobody could prove it. And then he was seen driving a stolen car one January. And the police chased him into the St. Christopher's Park area in Newry. And he jumped out of the stolen car that he was in. The police jumped out after him, and he ran down and dived into the Clanrye. And he has never been found.
That's right.
He never came back. And that young guy lived by fire and died by water. I always thought that was really, really strange.
It's a real important message there somewhere, isn't there?
And then
strange, all right.
That happened on the 8th of February, and we pulled as much down as we could, and what bits and pieces were left, we ran a fire sale. So I worked we got it back up again, opened the doors just in the shoe department. The rest of it was just completely destroyed. In the shoe department area, we opened it about the 8th of March. And on the 8th of May was the first day I got taken off again. It was that May bank holiday weekend. And I went off with the current squeeze of the time. We went down to Adair in County Limerick for the weekend. She had worked for the people who owned the manor down there.
Oh yes, Adair Manor.
Yeah, and we're visiting them, and I loved horses. I was hopeless at it, but I loved horse riding. And we went out to Askeaton in County Limerick and picked up a couple of horses. And my horse was lovely. My girlfriend's horse was a bit spooky, and we decided to swap it because it had been
Don't like them spooky horses.
Yeah, because it had been in a stable all weekend and fed oats, which is like being kept inside for 3 days and fed Red Bull, right?
Of course, it's going to explode.
So I got on her, and we went off down this field, and sure, you know Black Beauty. Sure, didn't I think I was on Black Beauty? And I gave the horse the head, and I came out of the stirrups, and I was really jockey stance.
Getting into it then.
Really. Now, something happened. Some say it was a rabbit. The horse just bucked, and my clear memory is the neck of the horse passing me as I went over. Now, luckily, my feet came out of the stirrups, but I went down, I just landed on my back like that and somersaulted 3 times.
Wind knocked right out of you at that stage.
The agony. I was in absolute agony. And all I could think was, I was due back in Dublin that night. My mother's coming home from Lourdes tonight. I have to pick her up at the airport. My mother, I'm going to get to the airport tonight. I wonder how I'm going to get to the airport. And I lay in the field, and the horse was kicking and bouncing all around me. And eventually, the owner got it, and I managed to get myself standing up and walked out of the field. And this wee man came along. Now, we're talking 1980 here, in a Mini. You remember the Minis?
You remember the old Minis, yeah.
And
About the size of that chair.
yeah, and the suspension gone on her.
Oh,
right?
at the back, so it was
Yeah, she's bound
skipping
on.
off the ground.
So we stopped him, and I said, "Will you take me down into Askeaton to get to my car?" And what I did to this day, I put my elbow out the window and my elbow on the back of his chair and held my body weight so that I was on
Suspended.
suspension. Yeah. And then when I got to my own car, the girlfriend rang the hotel, the Dunraven Arms we were staying in, and the manager came down and took me in my car to Croom Orthopaedic Hospital. And when the staff came out, I just said, "Look, lads, leave me here. I'll be all right here. Just see, have a look at me and tell me everything." There was actually teeth marks in the door handle of the car, and they managed to get me out of the car and X-rayed me, and I'd broken my back in 3 places.
My goodness.
And then my legs failed, and they thought I was never going to walk again. And I actually went into that big tunnel that they say you're going into.
Seriously?
Very seriously.
Wow.
And then they had a helicopter waiting at Shannon Airport to take me up to the place in Dublin, Rochestown Avenue, which was the thing. Because you remember, this was horse riding territory, so there was a lot of injuries like that. And they took me up to, they were going to take me up to Dublin because everything stopped working. All my organs and everything failed. And then,
So your body went into shock
yeah,
then?
it started to come back. And just one story was, the down south, they would put you on morphine for about 5 days. They'll only do it for 2 days up here. Put me on morphine for 5 days. And I had loads of phone calls because the shop was being repaired. And I remember lying in the hospital talking to, this friend of mine came down from Belfast when he heard it was gone. And I was reaching up into the clouds and pulling all these phone numbers down and saying, phone so-and-so, phone so-and-so.
Completely out of it.
Completely in. Every single phone number was right. And
Get away.
Yeah. So that, on top of the shop being burnt down, made 1980 a very, very tough year.
Wow. But
what
you
do you do?
bounced back.
What do you do?
All you can do is your best, and you've done it.
Well,
Well, you survived your back broken 3 places. That's incredible, and your body's shutting down.
Yeah.
Because when it shuts down, it doesn't
Well-
really want to kickstart itself. That's
the-
incredible.
Well, as Joe Gibney, who anybody ever know the Gibneys, an old family from Newry who used to be up in our house all the time, Joe Gibney would say, a sore back is a sore thing, but a sore thing isn't a sore back. But I just thought I would, keep
Just
you up to date.
clarify that in.
Yeah, But what they did was when they let me out of hospital eventually, they put me on, I was in this plaster that just came round here.
Big corset type of thing.
Yeah, around here. And I remember all I wanted to do was get to the Old Crown Hotel for a drink one night. And I
Were you giving it that?
well,
Superman
yeah,
status?
near enough, near enough. But I was standing at the bar getting a drink, and while I was in the bar, all I heard was this knocking noise. You know, and I thought, more than this knocking noise. Then next thing, this guy said, "Look, excuse me." This guy had been behind me and he was tapping me. But he was tapping the plaster, and I never felt a thing. But he must have thought I was a ball of muscle.
Oh, he thought you was a tough guy. Don't mess with this man here.
That's exactly it.
As a matter of fact, you were a tough guy.
No.
You had your back broken 3 places and you're
Yeah,
recovered.
but I wasn't a tough guy. Oh, no. I was a brilliant runner.
That's incredible, Declan. So you've obviously finished with horses then after that one?
Well, I went riding on the first anniversary.
Of it?
Yeah, just to prove it.
Like your style.
But
you're not a man to put down, Declan.
Well, I had a landmark birthday the next year. And by November that year, I was going to, do you remember Newry General Hospital?
Up in the Refrain Road?
Yeah, I was attending that. And this was this ex-Rhodesian professor who was dealing with me from the hospital up in Belfast. I can't remember which one it was. And I decided, now I wasn't married when I was 30. I had still 10 years of freedom left. And I said to him, I want to go on holidays. Maybe in April. I have a landmark birthday in May next week. Thank you. And he says, yes, Declan, that'd be a lovely idea. Go away, get a bit of the sun on your back. It'll help you an awful lot. Where are you going? I said, well, I'm going, first of all, to India to see the Taj Mahal. And then I'm going trekking up in the foothills of the Himalayas to the base camp on K2. And then I'm flying down to Thailand to scuba dive and just stay around there for a few days. And the funniest thing happened. He just stood up and he had one of these chairs on wheels and he flicked the chair back with the back of his knees and he pointed to the door and he says, Declan, just off out of my office and do it till it hurts. Because that's the attitude.
There's advice for anybody tuning into that one. There's good advice.
Do it till it hurts.
Do it till it hurts.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like that.
And I have lived my life like that ever
And you're
since.
still living it like it, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no stopping you at all.
But unfortunately, the sad bit about it all is living life like that was do it till it hurts. Was I ran this morning until my knees hurt, which isn't exactly what I had planned.
So now it's hurting.
Yeah, it really is hurting.
But he's still doing it, and now it's hurting. But fair play to you, Declan. But you're always up for a challenge, and you're not letting you're not one to lay down easily. Then.
Well, you see, we're going back to Hill Street.
Yeah.
I have seen the raw days and the sad days, but to put not too fine a point on it, business works on economics, and the very simple thing is only multiples can work in a shopping centre. Now, Newry's blessed with 2 shopping centres within the central area, 2 very good shopping centres, and as Louis Boyd said to me when they were coming, a rising tide lifts all the boats. But shopping centres have brought the multiples, and Newry wanted all the big names in Newry, and Newry has all these big names, but there is a restriction of choice in multiples because it means that what you get in a shop in London is in Nottingham, is in Glasgow, is in Leeds, is in Birmingham, is in Newry. It's all the same. And the only reason that the same can be commercial if there's something different to compare it to, which is the job of someone like me, someone like Jack Murphy, someone like Berling, like
the independent person
to bring this
independent trader. Yeah.
Now, if you have a shop in a shopping centre, it is colossal. The rates, the service charge, the rent, all advertising, all of that is colossal. And out of that turnover and those costs, you also have to pay your board of directors, your advertising department, your stock movement, all that. If you come into my shop and you buy anything off me, it goes to pay the council their rates so they can go off on their jollies. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. And it goes to pay the staff, the heating, the lighting, all that. And what bit is left, if there's any left, is what I get. right? There's none of it going out of town. It's all staying here. But what I can offer is a specialist, because I go to all the fairs all around Europe to buy what I think is right, as do all the other independent retailers. Now, it costs a colossal amount of money to get that amount of people into a shopping centre. It costs an awful lot less to get less people onto a hill street. But these are a different kind of buyer. And people are suddenly realising that the main street is for specialists, for who will offer service, who will offer supply that's different to the norm and to the mass market. And I mean, like Newry got a Tesco about however long it was, a year and a half ago, and the Tesco came to Newry after the MD of Tesco said the big Tesco store is an outdated model. People don't want that anymore. But they were on the railway track. Now, I'm not saying that the Tesco's out the road isn't doing well. I know it's doing very well, and it has a very good offer. But so is McDowney, opposite me.
Yeah.
He's doing brilliant because he offers a key direction of what the people in Newry want. The shop is filled with Newry people looking after Newry people. And it's just a very good system that he runs. And people are realising that now, that there is an importance in the specialist shop, and they're coming back to Hill Street.
Indeed.
And we've been there, I tell you what, we've been there waiting for them to come back, and they're coming back. Now, we've always had our very loyal customers, and each day we're getting more new people going, oh, haven't been on the street in a long time. Oh, gosh, it's great to be here. It's great to the... So I'm very confident in the future of Hill Street, you know.
Well, you've rode the storm right through all the troubles, Declan.
Oh.
You know, and as you say, shop burnt down, took a long time to build it back up again. But guess what? You're still in business, aren't you?
Still in business, yeah.
And as you say, McDowney across the road and Jack Murphy up the street. And
well, I was 40 years personally in business.
Wow.
On the February this year. And
That's
I happened to
incredible.
be in London at the Earl's Court show, and it was made mention of in the business that I
Well
was
done.
and somebody asked me, I did a sort of an interview for the show, and they said to me, right, 40 years, what's your future plans? I said, well, I still haven't decided what I'm going to do when I grow up. And
I'm working on it.
I'm working on it, you know. You know.
And you work closely with another Newry man as well, Justin Morgan. Razor Justin, good friend of mine, and
Yeah, I do.
top
And
guy, you know.
I tell you what, he's one of the brightest guys in the business, and he is held in such high esteem. You just wouldn't believe it. You go out there and you mention Justin Morgan, or you work with Justin Morgan, and he is so well thought of. I mean, Newry people, we're very lucky. We have a work ethic and we have an honour, you know, and those things are very strong. As Len O'Hagan, another, well, he's a Restover man, but he's from the locale. He did a business breakfast I was attending once, and he said, you know, that people from this area, you know, to succeed in business, you have to have drive, you have to have honesty, and you have to have integrity. And if you can fake those three, you can go far.
Well, on that note, because I'm getting the time out there from the studio manager.
I just thought he was offering us a cup of tea. There you go.
There you go. That is quite good. I love that one there. That just sums it all up, Declan, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. No,
you know what I mean?
have to care. You can't bluff it for long. You
No.
bluff it for a while.
No, but I mean, I was in the shop earlier on. I called in to see Declan just to say, you know, we're going over here to the studio, and there's a good crowd in the shop, and you know, Mary Ann's talking away, and it's all on spec, isn't it? You know what I mean? The customer was, you were down there with customers. Mary Ann was up here with customers.
But you remember, it all runs on the staff, and I am blessed with brilliant staff. The other girl who was there is Pat. Pat started with me on the Wednesday. My daughter was born on the Monday. She started on the Wednesday. That was 23 years ago, except for the fact that she worked for my father beforehand. Alongside her is a girl, Madonna, who, for family reasons, is only working at the moment 1 day a week. Madonna left me came to me part-time from St. Mary's. The day she left school, she started with us. She then left us for a while. Then she came back, raised her family. Her eldest son is 40.
My goodness.
And she's still with me. Then we have another girl. She would be the new girl. She's only with me 15 years.
Only.
And then we started a wee girl about 6 months ago called Roisin. And Roisin is just like an angel. She is super. Now, an angel with a master's in business and finance, but it's just such a lovely person. So the type of business we are is our customers know us and we know our customers, and that works.
There you go. But just customer care is everything, isn't it?
If you come into our shop,
Yeah.
nothing is too much and too much is not enough.
I hope you're all listening to that one, friends. I hope you all listen to that one. Well, Declan, it's an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure to be grand, Tony.
And I really enjoyed the banter there with you. You know, with plenty of banter, hadn't we?
Well, I
coming
behaved.
Up to,
I did behave.
he
mostly.
did behave. He did behave. I have to say, you know. But we're going to get him. We're going to have a night banter some night, and
We'll be back
we're going to
upstairs
see no behaving at all.
to this second case.
Yeah, we're going to crank a few bottles open and then. But Declan, as I say, thanks for coming in the studio.
It's a pleasure, Tony.
And
Pleasure.
I'd love to get you back in again, and you know, in a while, and we'll talk more. You know.
I'm not hard to get.
No, he's not hard to get. Friends, you want to shout out to anybody there, Declan? Just before we go.
I have a message for my bank manager, but the censor button will come in. So other than that, no.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here on Destination Newry, and it's absolutely brilliant that Destination Newry is here, because I will be telling my son and my daughter in Montevideo in Uruguay, and my son in Valencia, to watch in and see their embarrassing father on screen. But I mean, I know the service that Destination Newry offers to people who are out in the big world and their hearts are still here in Newry. This is a brilliant service. Look after it, because you need it.
Only here on the Banter. You heard it live from the man himself. Declan, it's been fantastic.
Tony.
And thanks again. I enjoyed it. So for me and Declan, friends, give us a razor, Declan.
What's a razor?
He's got the razor right now, straight away. From me and Declan, we're out of here.
We're out of here.